All right, let's get it started. 2026 draft finally in the books. Going to give my thoughts on all of this year's draft picks and how I think they're going to potentially impact the team in the short term, long term potential for the ones that I think actually like have the ability to develop beyond that initial role, and a little bit of context around the offseason as a whole. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Round one, to the surprise of absolutely no one paying any attention to anything in the media. Um, as always, everyone on the planet who pays any attention to football knew exactly what the Saints were going to do, and I'm not mad at it. Um, Jordan Tyson is a 6'2", 200-pound wide receiver. Seen some people draw some comparisons to Odell Beckham, some other comparisons. For a guy his size, 6'2", he moves with a balance and a grace and a body control, lateral agility, short area quickness, etc. You don't usually see in that frame, and it makes a lot of sense. His brother was a first round draft pick in the NBA, and generally speaking, NBA players are pretty much as good as it gets when it comes to just raw athleticism. So great genes, great stock, but beyond the physical traits, I think my favorite thing about Jordan Tyson is actually how he plays. This poor guy had just dog shit around him at the quarterback position, um, and did the most with not a lot. And some of the circus catches that he's known for and some of these crazy acrobatic plays only happened because his quarterback sucked. Um, which provided that the last several weeks of last season were not a mirage, will likely not be the case in New Orleans. Even if he was playing with Spencer Rattler, he would have way better quarterback play than he ever played with in college. Um, and Tyler Shuck has a very very there's a lot of synergy between what both of them do well. He's a guy you can move around him a lot. He's not a crazy refined route runner, but he has all the attributes to become one. He's definitely a football junkie. And what I'm calling a code switch persona, if you don't know what code switching is, you can fucking Google it. Um, you see him in interviews, dude's a choir boy. He was literally singing gospel music on his way up the stage when he got drafted. You see him on the field, though, and it is a DAWG dog. Dude fights for the ball. Every play tries to get the most out of it. He plays physical. He plays through the whistle. This is a guy, people who don't like Chris Olave because he doesn't do a very small subset of very specific things. When he's on the field, this guy's going to be all of those people's new favorite player in New Orleans almost immediately because he does all of those things and he does them exceptionally well. The Saints have struggled in the red zone. He's very good there. The Saints have struggled on third down. He's exceptional there. He's a guy who it's not necessarily you're not really going to throw him like a bubble screen or anything like that, but like you're also not going to need to. Like you're going to be able to move him around the field. Get him lined up, get him split off, get him free release. Kellen Moore's going to be able to do a lot with this guy pretty much instantly, assuming he's on the field, which is the giant porcelain elephant in the room. It's not just it's kind of like Tyler Shuck. He There's a pro and a con to the type of injuries he's had. The pro is it's something different every time. It's not he keeps hurting the same leg or he keeps breaking the same leg or he keeps damaging the same section of his body or something like that where you're worried about constant deterioration and like now this player is going to be injury prone because that muscle, those bones, etc., are weakened. Stabilizer muscles are being overcompensated. Overcompensation happens. Further injuries go on. Yada yada yada. Like I'm not really worried about that with him. Like they're all things that could happen, but I don't think it's reasonable to project them. The good news is he had major knee injury a couple years ago. Still looks, had a really good year in 2024, had a pretty good year in 2025, like just comparatively. Also, again, the quarterback was awful. Um, so I'm not super worried about the knee. The hamstrings are tricky because they can be indicative um, of like major structural issues or just like recovery problems with the player. And like you thought college was hard, wait till you see the pros. It could also be when you have professional trainers and a professional staff that you're able to work with and you manage your diet and you get a better stretching routine and you work out your hips and you loosen your hips and you lengthen out your hamstrings and all of a sudden like you're not having those problems anymore because you have a routine that helps protect you from that issue. So it's something where it's very concerning and it gave a lot of question marks around the player. But assuming that all that can be managed, the good news is there's nothing in his injury profile that makes me go, yeah, this guy's only going to play like 3 years. And that's very intriguing. He really could be an extremely fun player for this team almost immediately. And that's the exact opposite of what I'm going to say about the second draft pick. Um, but I'll get to the like complete recap at the end. But I'm going to say right off the top here, I am extremely happy with this year's draft and the overall approach. I was fairly ambivalent last season. I didn't love the Banks pick, but I understood it. I was really high on Sanker, and I thought Stunnerman could become a player. I hated the Broughton pick. Um, I hated the Shuck pick. I may have been wrong about that one. I do want to see more than 5 or 6 games, but certainly showed a hell of a lot in those few games. And so, if I was wrong about him, great. I'm so glad I was wrong. Um, I feel very differently about this year's draft, with the one exception being Kristen Miller. I don't dislike the pick. I'm mildly annoyed that once again we're spending a premium pick on another defensive tackle because we keep drafting guys and signing guys and they're not useful or helpful. Um, you have a first round pick invested in Brazil, you've got a third round pick invested in Broughton, you've got all these trades to bring guys in, and we constantly keep having to bring guys in because we don't seem to be able to find quality of defensive linemen. And it's really annoying. With that said, Miller, I think, is brought in at a position of need. The defensive line group in general is weak, but specifically defensive tackle is really bad. I think he's brought in to be a guy to immediately help against the run. He's a powerful player. He's I don't like he's not a Haloti Nada like gargantuan mastodon type nose, but I think he can play the nose in Staley's system. I think he's a good enough athlete to be able to get some amount of pressure and to create some tackle for losses and things like that. I'm not sure if he's ever going to be a star, but one thing that I am like, even though the position and just the role in general doesn't make me go, ooh, yay. The one thing I am very positive about in regards to him is he plays with a really good motor and he seems to have really good energy. And that makes a big difference. Brian Brzee quits on plays all the time. Broughton's, well, he's not on the field, so I can't tell you anything about him because he don't play. Um, some of the other older guys on the field, like Gottschalk, frankly, spent more effort trying to figure out his fit before the game than he did actually doing anything in the game. So from that perspective, I'm not going to be like, oh, well, we wasted a second round pick on the guy. Like, we need him to fill the role he was drafted for. But if he fills it, him plus Chase plus Stunnerman plus Sanker plus Riley, like you start looking at it and it's like there's a youth movement on the defense and they're all good players. And even if you don't have any stars, like if Chase continues his trajectory, he may become that. You take a couple of stars and you surround them with a bunch of really good players, and you can do a lot. So not mad at the draft pick at all. Early on, I thought this was going to be my favorite pick. There were a few different tight ends I really wanted in this year's draft. Um, I am not a believer in Juwan Johnson whatsoever. Not only is he a horrific blocker, he's a wildly inconsistent player as a receiver in general. And you can't just blame the quarterback because he was that when Drew Brees was here. Like basically, Juwan becomes an All Pro the moment you're eliminated from the playoffs. Also, when you happen to be playing several of the worst teams in the league, he all of a sudden looks pretty damn good. And then you play against good teams and he turns back into a vegetable. I just don't believe in him. If he proves me wrong and has an even better year this year than last year, awesome, great news. I'm not. I don't want to rely on it. And again, he's a horrific blocker. Um, Oscar Delp is a guy I'm pretty comfortable projecting as at minimum he's going to be a better pro than he was in college from a production standpoint, largely because he played with not great quarterback play and an offense that doesn't really throw to the tight end in college. And he simply just didn't get a lot of opportunities. When you watch him, not only is he rasped out of his mind, um, I think he ran like 0.09 slower than Olave. Like this guy can go, but it actually shows on tape too. He's not just a track guy. Really can run, really good body control, and movement skills. And when you're looking at like the 6'4", 250-pound frame, which is what you're looking at for a tight end, the ability to manage his pace, to accelerate, downshift, move in space fluidly, adjust his body to make catches, like those are all the things that make a tight end really effective in the NFL. And I've seen all of them. So I know he can do them. The question for me is going to be, is he a classic low production in college because they simply didn't get a lot of opportunities, becomes a stud in the NFL guy, which I actually think he might be? Or is he crazy amazing athlete but just never puts it all together, but super useful utility player Josh Hill? Getting Josh Hill in the third round is still a really good pick. I think he might be the former. Like I've seen some people draw some George Kittle comparisons, and that's like, you know, that's kind of crazy considering the career that George Kittle has had, but like there are parallels. And it's very exciting and interesting to actually have drafted a player with that type of projectability. Um, so obviously everything is cautious at this point in time, but we're also like right after the draft. So if you can't be excited now, when the can you be? Um, this kid not only has a crazy amount of talent and I think could be really, really good, but also you just look at the Saints offseason. So you added Font. Now you have Delp. So you have two tight ends who can do, Font can do a little bit in the receiving game, but it's a solid, good blocker. Delp also a very good blocker, but could potentially be a weapon in the receiving game. Like you can go, 12 or even 13 personnel with Juwan and really mix things up and do a variety of different things, especially with the addition of Etienne, you have the ability to be multiple with your options without having to be multiple with your personnel. And that was something that Sean loved to do in a different way back in the day. Modern offenses have really shifted a lot. Like you can see the shift happening more towards 12 and 13 personnel because modern tight ends are so impactful. And especially just because of the way defenses are playing, if you give them an idea of what you're doing, you have a problem. So you want to be able to do multiple things from the same personnel in the same formations. And I think that this kid's going to be a really fun, impactful player for the team. And I don't think it's going to take him long to get there either. On the exact opposite side of the spectrum, we're oscillating here. So I like the pick for Jeremiah Wright a lot by the philosophy. I'm not sure if I love the player. It's also the fourth round, and like I've always been a proponent. Anything past the third round, I think strong opinions that are like definitive. This guy's gonna be this are kind of stupid. Because like if they were that certain, they wouldn't have gone in that. They wouldn't have gone in that round. Jeremiah Wright is strong as hell. Um, he's kind of the anti Ruiz. Ruiz is Charmin soft in the run game, never gets any push, doesn't really finish plays, moves well, moves very well in space, but doesn't really do a whole lot else. Wright is kind of the exact opposite. Big mammoth guard, mauler, finishes plays, plays to and through the whistle. Like in a good way, not like in a dirty, Trevor Penning cheap shot from the blind side, and then we call it like, oh, he's hardcore. It's like, that was kind of media hype. Like not like that, but plays his ass off, plays super hard, plays super tough. Like powerful player. Not great at pass pro, but here's my thing on that. Because you added Edwards, because you have McCoy, because you have Fuaga, and also because you have Banks. Like if you have five offensive linemen and they're all great run blockers, and one is a not great pass protector, you can do a lot with that because the offensive line is a unit. There's a lot you can do to help protect him from his weaknesses if you can play to his strengths. The biggest problem with Ruiz is that his only strength is maintaining employment. On the football field, he doesn't do anything useful consistently other than suit the fuck up. So, from that perspective alone, I love the draft pick just because even if it's a project, if you can develop him, you can get Ruiz out of here. I'm also going to say I still think Simpkins, who was a UDFA they brought in last year, has a real shot to replace Ruiz as the starting right guard. Don't sleep on him either. But I like the draft pick. Whether he works out or not, I really like the idea behind it, and I like the commitment to we want to run the ball. We want to have the option to run the ball whenever we want to, and we need players that allow us to do that because a lot of these guys are bums. Hi, Juan. Now we get into the guy who's I'm so let me say the following very clearly. I am not saying he's going to be the best player out of this draft class. I am not saying anything like that. But this is probably my favorite draft pick of all eight guys we selected. I'm big time partial to guys with crazy upside, but also when we talk about freakish athletes, there's specific types of players I gravitate more towards. And Bryce Lance is, funny enough, also his former, went to the same college. Bryce Lance reminds me a lot of a guy that I absolutely loved in the draft a few years ago, which was Christian Watson. We're going to take a look at their measurables here in a second. You'll kind of get an idea of like why I'm like, oh wow, I'm a big fan. His brother is Trey Lance, one of the most extraordinarily overdrafted players of recent memory, but a freak athlete. Bryce has all that into athleticism. He is not yet a fully developed wide receiver. I think some of that actually just has to do with where he went to school and what he can do physically. I think there's probably other factors too. Um, but there's a lot to like. There's the frame, basically 6'3", 204, about an inch taller than Jordan Tyson. Crazy explosive, exceptional athlete, really good movement skills. Like not just like a straight line guy, but like can move well in space. Can actually like break some tackles and make guys miss and like find space like much better than I thought he could. Like just on like the initial view. But the thing specifically he does that has me the most interested for him as a rookie is he plays to his frame, but he has exceptional body control. This guy can be a touchdown machine. I could very much see him being a guy who does two things in the Saints offense as a rookie. Occasionally gets end arounds or they throw him screens or things like that, try to just take advantage. It also falls within his skill set, but take advantage of that freakish athleticism and see if he can go make a big play, but in the red zone. He's a guy who has really, really, really good body control and really good hands. And the hands part is actually the piece that separates him from his former teammate. Because like we look at the numbers here, like basically the same 40, they're similar size, similar 10-yard splits, actually a better vertical jump, slightly worse broad jump. Like he is an incredible athlete. And Christian Watson blew up the combine and got crazy, crazy, crazy height. Bryce Lance didn't, but very similar testing. Now, there's a reason for that. Christian was a better receiver in college. He was more pro ready. Like, there's some stuff there. But the one thing I think Bryce Lance does actually have better than him, I trust his hands more than Christian Watson. Watson's biggest problem in college, to me, and honestly has been as a pro, has been concentration and just inconsistency. I actually see more of a steady incline in a good way of performance for Bryce, and I didn't see a lot of the hands issues. So this is the guy I'm the most excited about. I think he has a real shot to be an impact player for the Saints in a limited role early. But this is one of those like home run attempts where this guy could be a household name in 2, 3 years, and people are going, "Oh my God, how did he make it to the fourth round?" And then you look at his measurables and you go, "No, seriously, how did he make it to the fourth round? 6'3", 4.34, 11, 41-inch vert. Like how?" With those hands and those measurables, did somebody not just go, let's just secure this guy and hope we can develop him? We'll see. I'm not projecting that, but the possibility absolutely exists. And for a team that has been absolutely devoid of juicy, dynamic, just explosive players, like this guy's one of my favorite draft picks in a really long time. Whether he works out or not, I have no idea. But just as an idea, oh, mm, feels so good to see a player with this type of upside get taken by the team and them to take a chance on him instead of your 84th corner, who's probably not going to see the field. Like yeah, give me more of these. Take a swing like this every year, please. Next guy drafted is the brother of Omega talent Sonny Styles. So this is Lorenzo Styles Jr., who is just as freakishly athletic as his brother. Dude ran a 4.27 and said basically did it hurt and was like, I can run in the low 4.2s, and my brain was like, I'm sorry, what? I'm a big believer that athletic testing is should be considered positionally dependent. Like for the most part, I don't really care what 40 a tight end runs, like as long as it's within like a very broad range. Like if you run a super fast 40 and it's there on tape, it's like, okay, well that's interesting and you can do something with that. But like I also don't care if the guy ran a 4.6 or a 4.7 because it's just not a position where that is key. Corner, it is key. It is arguably the most important thing. Lateral agility, like your ability to, go side to side, change directions, flip your hips, etc., and just straight up speed. Like it's a enormous part of whether or not you can have success at the position, and he certainly has that. The downside for him, and the reason why he's a fifth round pick, he's a converted wide receiver, and it looks like it. He doesn't yet look comfortable playing corner. You see some snaps where he looks really good. You see a lot of stuff where it's like he doesn't necessarily totally know what he's doing. He's a pretty good tackler, but he definitely could be a lot better there. Actually, kind of solid in zone, but like there's just a lot there where you go, the talent is there, the skill set is not. Like he's just not ready to play corner in the NFL. What I could see him in doing it day one though, I could see him be the Saints gunner immediately and be super impactful at that and have long term upside for developing into a rotational player or even a starter. Like his athletic profile says maybe that's possible. But I can see him being an impactful gunner immediately, and that's what you want. Fourth round, fifth round, sixth round, something like you need special teams contributors. Special teams isn't sexy, and it doesn't win you a lot of fantasy points, but it does matter enormously to actually winning football games, and was a huge weakness for the team. And we've lost a lot of guys from those units the last several years. So If he can just fill that role, I love the draft pick. And again, I love the upside. Like there's the chance of being something awesome, but at least there's a reasonable possibility of being something useful immediately. Almost in the exact same vein, Barry and Brown. Finally, we can. Oh my God, they don't draft guys from LSU. Well, they drafted one, so shut up. Jokes aside, um, Brown is the exact type of player you want to see drafted at this part of the draft. And what I mean by that is there is a clear vision of we see a role for this player, they do a specific thing well, and we want them to do that thing. If the player develops and extends themselves beyond that, awesome. Barry Brown is brought in because the Saints don't have a freaking kick returner on the team. That pretty much there. That's why he was drafted. You know what he's really good at and was really good at in college? Kick returns. There's the pick. If he can develop as a wide receiver, if he can become more, great. Don't care though. Like don't need that. If that happens, awesome. But it's reasonable for him to come in day one and be the punt and kick returner for the team and to have an immediate impact on the team. And he was quite good at both in college. Multiple kick returns. I don't see any reason why he can't do it in the pros. He has 4.4 speed. Like he has what you need. He has the lateral agility. He has the vision. He has the setup. Like he has all the elements to be impactful at those spots. You know, you could be your wide receiver 5 or wide receiver 6, but he's really just like no, he's returner 1. Like that's his role on the team. That's where you are in the depth chart. And I could easily see him winning that spot pretty much immediately. And the final pick selected, um, cornerback TJ Hall. Corner, specifically slot, is the weakest spot on the team right now. Um, I wouldn't be surprised to see them do something, you know, in the kind of the secondary wave, post draft wave of free agency, um, you know, to replace Alante. Although, when you say replace Alante, what you really mean is replace Alante on his good days, because on his bad days, that ain't hard. I'm not sure TJ Hall can't fill that role. Like he's a seventh round pick. You don't ever want to put too much stock in it. But he's interesting to me, even though I have developed a certain hatred for people from Fresno. That's nothing to do with TJ Hall, so I'll forgive him for Derek Carr's transgressions. The way he moves screams slot to me. Screams slot, screams that box area. He's actually got very good coverage skills. His problem is he runs a 4.59. Like he's just does not have the top end speed to be an outside corner, pretty much, period. Extremely willing tackler, very good tackler, reads plays, diagnoses plays quickly. The diagnosing quickly part is the super important part of playing in the slot because you have to navigate so much mess, especially in today's NFL. And it's like you gotta zero in, you gotta trigger, fire, tackle, like make a play, and you gotta get through a lot very quickly. He's actually really good at that. Those are his strengths. Run real fast and straight line down that way. Not one of his strengths. Um, and just because we have such a huge hole in that spot, I can see him bringing some value there early potentially. I could also see Howden just kind of being put in that spot, and it's not ideal, but it's the best option for the team. Like I think I could see the team going a few different directions, but again, everything past the third round is a lottery ticket. The seventh round is like that's the just pick a random number and oops, I forgot to check it on drawing day. Let me check it 3 days later. Like it's that type of lottery ticket. Like I'm not expecting anything from my seventh round pick, but as a pick, I'm not mad at the player because I think his skill set and what specifically he does actually does match things that the team needs. And that means there's a real chance for him to potentially, contribute for the team. Also, the whole like good at tackling thing is useful on special teams as well. So, there's the possibility of him, carving out a niche there, and that's kind of what you want to see in those late round players. So, to wrap everything up, my overall feeling on the draft is I think this was how it ends up being, only time will tell. But from an approach perspective, I think this was an excellent draft. I am positive that Mickey Loomis was not involved in this draft because it was an excellent draft. Not only did they not trade up, but it showed a very clear vision and understanding of what the team needs. And rather than trying to take a more balanced approach and address all of the team's needs at once, which means you also have to have an exceptionally high hit rate, like that works if you hit on every pick. But if you miss on a few, you still have those holes, but you might not even have filled some of the other holes you were hoping to fill. One of the biggest problems this team has had for years now has been lack of juice, lack of explosive players, lack of dynamic athletes, lack of guys who can make plays. I don't need to scheme you open. The quarterback doesn't have to throw an absolutely perfect ball. You can make a play. They haven't had those. Jordan Tyson is that to a T. Honestly, again, Bryce Lance, even though he's there in the fourth round, that's his skill set. He is a playmaker, like wide receiver 4. But you put him in there sometimes, and you give him a few opportunities, and he's gonna make some plays. And if he develops to his maximum potential, he's probably not wide receiver 3, but that's okay. You're perfectly fine with that. Like the ideal scenario is it's Olave, Tyson, Lance in a year or two, and like that's your big 3, and like now you like teams have a problem because you got 2-6-2 guys who are explosive, and one of them runs a 4-3, and you got a 6 foot guy who also runs a 4-3 and is a man beater terrorist who also obliterates zone. Like that's how you build a dynamic offense. It's also how you help a young quarterback develop into an elite quarterback because very few guys like the Patrick Mahomes who start their second year and are elite from day one, like those are it's basically him and Elway. Like it just doesn't happen. So that's a huge part of why I'm excited. The team very clearly recognized we need juice, we need dynamic, impactful players, and we're gonna focus on them. We're gonna prioritize them. We're gonna bunch of them. But also they got them of different archetypes, um, and they got multiple of them. And then in free agency, this is the other part of why I'm so excited about the draft. Getting Edwards for the O line, getting Font, even though it's not a huge sexy pickup, the blocking at the tight end position was so horrifically bad last year, along with the run game, which has an enormous impact on the offense, which also has an enormous impact on the defense because when you can't score points and you can't move the ball to give the defense a break, there is there is a compounding effect to that. And the fact that the coaching staff, along with the not Mickey people in the room, recognized this is a huge structural problem for our team and dedicated meaningful resources to resolve that gives me a whole lot of hope. A lot of hope. I don't know why I'm doing the Italian freaking I want some pizza hand sign with whatever the hell that accent was, but I also don't care. So yeah, that's really my thoughts. I think immediately post draft is the best time for optimism, but in this specific case, I think it is reasonable optimism. I think the low end version of things here probably still works out pretty well, and the high end thing version of things works out incredibly well. Like if Tyson is healthy and Lance, Bryce Lance works out, like you have immediately 2-6-2 plus extremely dynamic, explosive receivers to complement Olave, to complement the tight ends. If Delp is 40% of what he could be, which is Josh, that puts him in the Josh Hill range. He's a very impactful, very helpful player that'll be here for 10 years. If he's what he could be, you have a star at that position, and it completely changes how you can build your offense and what you can do. And it gives you the ability to do the most impactful thing in sports, which is dictate to the opposition what they get to do. Cool, we're going to do this. If you don't try to stop this, you lose. If you do try to stop this, we still have multiple options to create problems for you. That's what the great units do. Offense, defense, whatever side you want to look at. That's where you get move into that, oh wow, they're a problem territory, is when you can dictate terms to the opposition. We do not have any units as of last year that could dictate anything to anybody that wasn't the Jets. And the Jets dictated things to the Jets, and what the Jets dictated was we are going to lose and we're going to create statistics that are so hilariously inept that you won't believe them. We would like to be able to do that to the good teams, to the Rams, to the Seahawks, to the Niners, to the Patriots, although I have mixed feelings about how amazing that team is long term. Um, the the Broncos, so on and so forth. Like obviously the Chiefs, I think will probably be back. I stole my draft day in the second round, and I'm still pissed about it. Um, if we had gotten our Mason Thomas at 42 instead of Christian, um, I would have been a few hawk divs higher excitement wise for this draft. That was one of my draft days for this draft. I was really excited for him, and I'm really annoyed that Spags got him. But overall, I'm really excited about this draft. So hope you guys are excited as I am. Let me know your thoughts. If you disagree on any of the players, or even if you just you want to share the excitement, drop a hoot at in the comments. And can't wait for us to get to the off season program and start seeing clips of these guys on the field.